quite a lot with CTA. First of all, during all the extension weeks we have been having, we usually have it every 2 years. We have, CTA has always been there supporting us, working with us. The information packages that has been coming from CTA, both digitally and hard copies, we have been receiving them, sharing them, distributing them very widely indeed. And my prayer is that this kind of information will continue to feed into the extension system and accelerate the digitalization. As of course, as you know, AFAS has been in operation for almost over 10 years now, and our mission most is focuses on lesson learning and professionalism in the value chain and cultural extension. So this topic and our involvement in this area is extremely relevant and pertinent. Going specifically to, and right now we are being funded by the EU, who have been funding us almost from the inception and up to now, and we thank them also very much. IFAD has also supported us, and we thank them also. Those have been our main supporters and donors, and we greatly appreciate that. And I think they have been equally the biggest supporters of CTA. So there's been a long range of bondage between CTA and AFAS. Now on digitalization, that's, as we talk now, it's a necessary imperative. And for extension worker, it is the area where we really have to move. One, first of all, the amount of technologies and innovations in general in the extension system and even accumulating from the private sector, from research institutions, and so on, is massive. It is necessary that we use all kinds of tools, mechanisms, and methods so that these innovations, knowledge, and technologies reach the farmers. And the extension workers are the frontline workers, and they are the interface between these innovations, technologies, and knowledge with the farmers. So they interface with the farmers very closely, and they are therefore the needed personnel and people and workers that are very essential in the digitalization. Well, digitalization itself is not a new concept, and nor is it unknown. And especially working with CTA, this has been a very, very, very innovative concept that has moved all the way to the farmers now, with a lot of packages, which involves issues of ICTs, use of radios, newspapers, and other mechanisms.
Okay.
And what we know is the extension workers are not many, although they are varied. There's private sector, there's public sector, there's NGOs and farmer organizations. All of them are involved in extension. But even when they're involved in extension, they are not many. And the reach is very low in sub-Saharan Africa, extremely low. And yet the information, innovations, and technologies are plenty. And the only way that these innovations can reach the farmers more effectively and more deeply is by using digitalization tools and methods. But that needs a lot of investment as well in terms of content, in terms of management, in terms of facilitation, and so on. But we are also lucky in sub-Saharan Africa that the use of mobile phones are now, and the access and use of mobile phones is now is very, very wide indeed. It's extensive, and this can be, of course, increased. And with extension workers, almost every extension worker has now a smartphone. So that would be a good starting point, and therefore a plus for us. Now, moving to digitalization, like I said, this has been accelerated. Of course, we know COVID is there, and COVID has has been, of course, is a disaster in terms of human, because the human disease, deaths, distance observing, lockdowns, and so on, livelihoods, and so on. But it has opened a window which has always been there. Actually, I can say it has opened a door, a floodgate on the use of digital methods and tools, and which we can ride on right now, and probably it's being done right now. So therefore, this is a very, very ripe moment, actually, to push for digitalization, because now governments are very aware, and they themselves are using digital methods to reach the various audiences. So I welcome this initiative, today's webinar, and I also hope that this can be accelerated further as we move on in implementation. So again, let me thank you for your participation, CTA support, and others. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Slim, the ED of AFAS, for those very good welcoming words and words of wisdom. I therefore now humbly call upon Dr. Ibrahim Kadat, the Director of CTA, to give his opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Max. And thank you for all the other panelists and, of course, participants who have joined from all over the world. I'll just start by talking briefly, reminding us about the way development goes, where you have waves of, from time to time, new concepts, new terms that come and occupy everybody. There was maybe 2 or 3 decades ago, it was globalization. Innovation has been also a term that has been a concept that you see there. Knowledge management, again, there was kind of fever around that. Value chains, gender equality. So these come, and sometimes you wonder how much difference they're going to make. But of course, they all push for, the way to adopt these is that they become mainstream. If it's mainstream, then maybe you don't even talk about it again, because it's part of everyday work that we do. And I think when it comes to digitalization, it has really very special attributes because it's there. Because when you talk about digitalization, IT is always going to be a part of that. And IT is really part of our world today and for many years now. But of course, it's good that sometimes attention is drawn to something to again remind you about how useful it can be, but also the potential, not just to get used to the term. CTA, maybe I just bring CTA into the picture a bit here. CTA, from, as many of you know, is about to be closed as a center to cease operations. But it's also benefited a bit like the AFAS example, a lot of funding from the Commission, from the EU, under the agreement with the ACP, the Cotonou agreement, which is expiring soon. The area where CT has worked a lot, basically from the very beginning, is the knowledge area, and therefore looking at especially content. That is, what is written, what is published, to educate, to get people to learn, up to the farmer level in Africa. So extension is always a big part of that, and the Caribbean and Pacific. But also another element, of course, is bringing people together, whether it's through networks, through meetings like this. And even from the very beginning, I was not there when it started, but even in the mid to late 80s, CT also believed that IT should be part of that package, and IT should be promoted in Africa. At the time, it was, from what I gathered, mostly around documentation centers being helped to acquire CD-ROM, to digitize the library and so on. Not many people really believed that this was appropriate. So I gathered open questions about this, not too soon. It is not something that you take in too quickly to Africa and so on. But I think the characteristic, one of the attributes of the center has been to believe that nothing is too soon, because around Africa also you got universities, you got people who are educated, you got many people. So even if it's not the majority, nothing is ever too advanced for the continent of Africa. And I think this is what CTA has believed in. And this is why also CTA invested more recently in the area of digitalization to really be a torch bearer, to really say, okay, well, we are going to show that this is already part of the environment in Africa. This is already there, but nobody actually sees it. So let's do a study. Let's find out from the ground, from different reviews, talking to people, where things are with digitalization, especially in agriculture. And that evidence has been really overwhelming, very convincing, that it's not just a concept and an idea, but it's something that is already alive in African institutions, in networks, in extension, and so on. So this is really key, because there's a lot of work to do here to convince our partners that this is not a topic for research only, although that's key. It is not a topic just to train few people, but this is part of the development scenario right up to the village in Africa. And it can make a big difference, and it's already making some difference. But if you're familiar with the report, you will see that next to that optimism, if you look at the recommendations, about 7 of them, it also shows that there's a lot more to do. As I said, not just in the area of research and systems development, but in terms of making it, beginning to show the impact on agriculture, on farmers, how this could be used to really mainstreamed across different practices on the continent. Bring it also the business element, the business model that has to accompany, because there's investment needed, convince people to invest. So there's a lot of work to do. So even though CTA is about to stop operations, we believe that it's like a relay. You got to pass on the baton, and this is key. Otherwise, everything will just fade away if we're not careful. So in part of our efforts, if you call it final efforts, has been to really, once we knew that the center was going to shut down, to make sure that we make the proper arrangements, or at least encourage others to take forward those promises that they are making, different institutions, different organizations, to take this forward, so that such a study is not wasted. And actually it can be used to launch a whole lot of other initiatives. And we are pleased really to announce as part of this, that this has gone beyond just words, and there's action. University of Wageningen has been approached. I mean, they had to, it's a competitive bid, but they won a bid to set up a knowledge hub that will really look at, provide the engine room sort of, to really promote this. Because whenever you have new ideas, new concepts, it's not enough for people to just practice it. You also need for that idea to be thought through, some more research done, people who really look after the engine room, so to speak. And that is a good start, because with that knowledge hub, which we start very, very soon, is about to start, it will keep people together, keep the interest, bring different ideas and so forth. So really, this is a good time to make sure that we don't just sit back, but that this message is spread out. And I think there's no better group to work with than GFRAS, AFAS, because this is what they are doing very well, and they can appreciate from the network, from people involved, the need, the potential, but also that is really there today, is part of what's happening on the ground. and we can continue to convince those with more funds, not only from outside of Africa, but also within the continent, it's different countries, to invest more in this, because it's a really something that touches on every aspect of our lives. The COVID situation has even underlined that even more. But even beyond that, or whatever we find ourselves doing in the next few months ahead, this is really a very, very important area. Topic is a treaty, whichever you want to treat it. For you it's a concept, fine. If it's mainstreaming, is fine. If the idea is to actually promote investment, is to use it. And of course, part of this is more understanding of how IT works, because that's part of the scenario. So I think this is also going to place some demands in many, many areas of how we learn and how we practice our different professions that all come together to help agriculture and development. So let me stop there again. I really wish you a very successful meeting today, and thank you for this invitation. And yeah, I think I will hand over back to you, Max.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Ibrahim Kada, the director of CTA, for those very kind words, but also a lot of encouragement in terms of digitalization in Africa. We do appreciate the working relationship that we have enjoyed and continue to enjoy with the CTA and all our other partners. Thank you so very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as we now enter into the technical part of our webinar, I wish to welcome Dr. Benjamin Kwasi Adom, who is going to present a key presentation on the digitalization of African agriculture, focusing on the 2018-2019 report, which was published by CTA. I know Dr. Adom had a lot of insights in this report. And here is a person who comes from Africa, is an African from Ghana. What I know from Dr. Adom is that he started his life from the social agriculture. He moved on. When he went to do his PhD in the US, he decided to specialize in information science and technology. And that has really helped him to support a lot of initiatives in terms of digitalization of agriculture so much. So he is a person from the field, but also at the top management, strategic thinker at that level. Currently, Dr. Adom is a team leader of ICTs for agriculture at CTA. So I would like to welcome you, and if you wish to introduce yourself a little bit more, we welcome that. Otherwise, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Max. I think we are running behind time, so it's better to jump straight into the issues, so that, because I can see people are eager to hear and learn and share about this topic. So if you want to know more about me, search for me on LinkedIn, and you come across and contact me, and we can talk about what I do and my background and everything. So I hope everybody can hear my voice well, and you can see the screen. What I'm going to talk about is present some ideas, concept about, digitalization for agriculture. What exactly is it? And then the report we are talking about, what did we do? Then I would present some of the key findings. It's over 200-page report. We cannot talk about everything here, so just selected findings, and then the implications for extension and advisory services. So these 3 presentations will be, interrupted by reactions from others. So it will be 3 slots of presentation. So I'll go straight to the first part. So this report, the idea came, in 2018 based on CTA experience, what we've been doing in this area. And a lot of people continue to say this is a hype, there's nothing happening, we're just making noise. So we decided to pull this report together to show evidence that there's something happening and there's a need for more investment and there's a need to address the current spate of fragmentation, duplication within the sector. So that was basically the key reason for the report. I hear some people asking whether they'll have access to the slide. Yes, we will share the slides with you, so no need to take detailed notes. So I will not even read slides. I will just try to summarize some of the points. Okay, so what is the report? What we did is to come out with a baseline report of the sector, because we know there are a lot of publications here and there, but there is none that pull all this together into, and that's what we refer to as ecosystem approach, to pull it together, not to profile one solution against the other, but to show the picture of what is happening. So that is what we did. So it's a primary research and with recommendations and pointers. How did we do it? So we carry out a survey, we carried out interviews, we did some deep dive field visit country cases, and as usual, some desk research. And the most important part is, pulling together a strong team of advisors. So you can see the companies and organizations, the logos that are on this screen. So we had representatives from all these institutions that guided the design, the production of the report. So it's a solid report with figures and findings that you can read and digest and apply it to different situations. So this is the challenge that all of us are trying to address in the agricultural sector, whether you are a researcher, you are working on climate change or productivity, inclusion. These are the keys. If you look at your programs, your organization, you agree with me that it falls into 1 or 2 or 3 of these areas. So the key question is, what is the role of digitalization for agriculture extension and advisory services in this transformation process that billions of US dollars, euros are being pushed into every day? What is the role of digitalization? In this report, we define digitalization. So you see some of the key points over the terms that we use: digital technologies, innovations, data, business models, practices that influence the issues that I mentioned in my previous slide. But in addition to this is a very colorful slide that I've been working on to pull the whole concept of digitalization for extension agriculture in general together. So my argument is that when you talk about digitalization for agriculture, it has 4 components. The first one is digital innovation for agriculture, which is subdivided into the solutions and the technologies. The second one has to do with the big data and analytics. That talks about the quality content that we are trying to deliver to farmers, as well as getting to know the farmer. If you don't know the farmer, how do you deliver the right information to the farmer? So data, pulling all this data together, builds what we call big data. And then the analytics is the trends that come in. Then the third component has to do with business. Who pays for all this? How do we pay for it? Do we just depend on the donors? Do we attract private sector? This is the biggest part that we don't do, and that's why we don't see the sustainability of these services. So we need to focus on the business part, not just depending on foundations, donors to be giving us money. We need to think beyond that. Then the final component is the enabling environment. If we do number 1, number 2, number 3, what are the things that need to work around this for digitalization for agriculture to continue? And this I classified into both digital and non-digital. I can present this for 2 hours, so I'm not going to spend time on it. If you need more explanation, you can contact me. We position this within the whole agricultural, ecosystem. So the report is going to talk about advisory services, market linkage, financial assets, supply chain management, and macro ag intelligence. But this seminar or this webinar is on the first one, the advisory services. So what we are saying is, if you work on all these, you apply them to the issues that we are talking about, it will lead to agricultural transformation within the continent, even beyond the continent. I will end the first section here and then give it back to Max.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Adom, for that insightful presentation, part A. I wish therefore now to call upon Dr. Christine Davis. Most of you are familiar with Dr. Christine Davis, who is one of the board members of AFAS. Christine works with the International Food Policy Research Institute. She was the first executive secretary of GFRAS, the Global Forum for Rural Advisory Services, and she now works with IPRI fully, but with the DLAC, developing local extension capacity, working throughout Africa. She is actually Kenyan because that is where her roots are. So Dr. Chris Davis is a grounded person in extension and advisory services, having done even her PhD in extension and focusing on farmer field schools. With this, Christine, I welcome you.
Thank you, Max. Good day to all of you. I see we have probably 190 participants so far, so that's excellent. Thanks for coming here today and for listening to this important report. As a researcher myself, I think CTA has done a very fantastic job in going beyond the hype to actually gaining evidence on digitalization, because as Dr. Adam mentioned, there is a lot of hype and people think ICTs can solve everything. And I see from some of your questions, you know, about reaching illiterate people, reaching vulnerable people, and groups that might not have the same assets as other people. We need to be very careful in how we use digitalization for agriculture. But I think there's a lot of evidence coming out now. You can look at some of the DLEC project reports, Developing Local Extension Capacity, and we'll share the website there. But IFPRI and DLEC have already been doing some studies, gaining evidence on what's the actual impact of digitalization, of using ICTs and extension and so forth. I'd like to comment on Ben's earlier introduction to the whole concept of digitalization for agriculture. And he talked about those colorful slides with the 4 areas. And I think it's very important to note that it's a very systemic, thank you, very systemic process, and it's very holistic. So everyone gets focused on number 1, or possibly number 2, and you know, it's these sexy and shiny apps and materials that we have to digitalize agriculture, but without promoting an enabling environment and without providing people with skills or business development services, it's not going to work so well. And so I think we have to be really careful to think of the big picture and to include all of the different supporting systems that are also needed beyond the innovations themselves. And then, as I mentioned, I think it's really important to consider the people who might get left out by the digital revolution, and think about how can we reach the illiterate, the pastoralists, the people with no internet connectivity. So I'll keep my remarks short and give it back to the moderator. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for that concise and up to the reality of things on the ground. So now I welcome back Dr. Adom to present the next stage, but also request Andre to send a poll out just to check who is who and where are we coming from. So that poll go concomitantly with the presentation. So Dr. Adom, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Max, and thank you for Christine for the intervention. So what I'm going to do now is to quickly, talk about some of the key findings. The detailed ones are in the report. So these are just highlights. Okay, so the first one talks about the use cases. So we took a use case approach, which I did mention in my earlier slide: advisory and information service, supply chain, market linkage, macro ag intelligence, and financial services. If you look at this slide, it tells you the volume of the solutions that go into the advisory and information service. So you can see what we are talking about today: extension and advisory services. Over 35% of the solutions that we found in Africa mention that they provide extension and advisory services. So that is key compared to the others. As you can see, supply chain 13, market linkage 27, and so on and so forth. So this is something for you to take into consideration as we proceed. We also would like to tell you trend over the years. So from the data, it shows that far back in 2012, there were only 42 solutions, digital solutions for agriculture. And as of 2018, we had over 400 digital solutions for agriculture. So you can see the rise of these solutions. And this is only in Africa. And this is based on, the methodology that I explained, the survey, the interviews, and the depth research. Still, there may be some out there that we were not able to capture into this data. So just telling you the trend, how this is growing every day. One key thing that we found is bundling of services. So if you go back to my other slide that talk about the use cases, what we are saying with the bundle cases is that most of these solutions, about 53% of these solutions, are not providing only one of the use cases. In other words, it's not only advisory services, it's not only market information, it's not only financial services, but bundle use cases. About 108 of these solutions have either market information and advisory services, or financial services and advisory services. And about 8 of those have about 5 use cases that they are providing within one platform. That is about this slide. So we see the trend of moving from one use case to bundle cases. When it comes to the registration of the smallholder farmers within these solutions, you can also see from the green one down to the left here, that is the advisory and information service solutions that have registered more farmers. About 68% of all the farmers registered are registered under these advisory services. About 22.6 million users, registered users across the continent, out of over 33 million. So you can see the trend, the importance of what we are talking about today. This slide, what I want to show you is for you to look at the color, the orange or the yellow color versus green. And then East Africa or Eastern Africa and Western Africa mainly. If you see the orange color, you will see is the number of solutions, whether they are headquartered in the region or they are operating or focused in the region. The green is the number of registered users within these solutions. you will see that in the western part of Africa, we have over 162 solutions. And then in the eastern part of Africa, to the upper right, you see 146. But when you look at the registered users, you see back West Africa on the left, 4.3 million, but Eastern Africa, over 21 million registered. So the point I want to make is, whilst West Africa has lots of these solutions compared to East Africa has the most across the continent, or the regions, the most registered users. You know, what we found was the apps or the solutions from West Africa are young. They are very new, a lot of new innovations taking place in western part of Africa. So they are now registering. But if you go to eastern part of Africa, there are more mature ones that have lots of registered users. That's why you see this disparity. Then this slide also tells you about the countries, you know, the countries that are leading in terms of the solutions, okay? So these are the solutions. It doesn't mean that Kenya is the lead, you know, country in the continent in terms of digitalization for agriculture. Again, consider the 4 components that I talk about. All that I'm talking about here is the number of solutions registered in these countries. Kenya can be the lead in terms of solutions, but might not be the lead in terms of enabling environment, you know, the business part and the data. So these are registered solutions in these countries as they spread across the continent. We also saw the usual trend, you know, with gender and age. So women are underrepresented and the youth are, you know, the ones actually taking up the technology. Another important thing is to look at who are those providing these services. So we look at the type of businesses or companies, organizations that are providing these solutions. You will see the commercial service being the biggest part, and government, if you look at the left part, you see green. Government takes only 1.5% of the solutions, but you see they reach over 20% of registered users. And these are just few governments that are taking this action. You will see the MNOs as well, the mobile network operators. They are also very few, but they have registered a lot, which is 20%. Commercial, these are mainly the startups. There are a lot of them, you know, but they are struggling because of business and, you know, getting the number of registered users is not easy. So you can see the disparity with this as well. We also try to look at the funding, you know, how is money flowing? And we have seen that it's been driven basically for all these years by donors. And these are some of the top funders, you know, that you can see from the top to the down, and yeah, mainly dominated by donors and the foundations. But we are also seeing increasingly revenues being earned from these solutions. We want to move more towards revenues being generated from these solutions instead of depending on donors and funders. We look at the potential impact of this on job creation, and the reason why I put this slide on is the second part, the digitally enabled D for Ag field agents. We are talking about extension here, and we know the challenge that we have on the field with extension service provision. So we see the potential, and there are cases, as Christine has mentioned, there are cases on the grounds where extension practitioners are effectively deploying these tools to be able to support what they do. This is not replacement of human on the ground, but to support the delivery of extension services on the ground. We also see the trend of, as I mentioned, from bundle, individual cases to bundle, but we also talking about what we refer to as super platforms, going beyond bundle to super platforms. Super platforms are those that are not just bucket lists of 2 or 3 of these use cases, but they are intentionally designed, and these solutions do complement each other to be able to deliver. I can use 30 minutes to explain this, and I don't have the time. So if you're interested in super platforms, get in touch with me. Some of the countries that we deep dive into are Ethiopia, Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria, Rwanda, Senegal, and the Sahel region. And those are some of the key findings. The bolded and italics ones, they are the ones that are recommendations, for these countries to act on. Basically, the details are in the report. For example, in Ghana, prioritize the reach of underserved populations. In Senegal, investment in country ICT infrastructure needed based on what we found in these countries. So I'll end it here and open it up for reaction.
Thank you so very much, Ben, for that, again, up to point presentation, and also really bring the continent to the reality that digitalization of extension and advisory services is very pertinent. All the statistics show that whenever you ask farmers, they are looking for extension services, and how do we enable that to happen? And that can only happen through digitalization. Having said that, I now welcome Andre. Andre is currently the AFAS information, communication, knowledge, everything on the knowledge management and ICTs. Andre comes from a background of digitalization already. He has worked with a number of organizations, collaborating with the CTA. He has also worked with the FARA, our key partner in Africa. Andre is a hands-on person. I could briefly summarize him as that. So with those few descriptions of Andre, please, I welcome you to make your presentation.
Thank you very much, Max, and thank you very much, Ben, for this very, I would say, timely, relevant, and really interesting presentation you did. When I first read this report, I was very keen to learn more about the use cases and all the applications that comes with. And I was surprised to see, as an ICT for Ag expert in Africa, that there were many that I didn't knew. So I would really encourage those who haven't read this report first. There might be lot of surprise. You'll see there are a lot of solutions that exist in your country. Just go through the report. And I think the link is shared somewhere on the chat box. Now, it was an eye-opener for me also to see some huge differences from regions, and how the gender issue is still pending. A lot of women are not really accessing, and young people and so on. I was happy to see that smallholder farmers are becoming more and more users of digital solutions. So I think it's the right time now really to tap in that potential of having our farmers, even the smallholders, use digital tools. That is my general appreciation for the report, if based on what was just explained. Now, I also had some I would say, remarks about when you talk about the super platforms. Will it be a good thing given the fact that we encourage, I would say, small players to grow and to create more dynamism in this sector? If we have a super platform, like you just showed, I think it was Alibaba Group or something like that, in Africa, what will happen with the small players? So that, I think, should be questioned. Then another question that I couldn't find in this report, but I think it's also good for the next partners who are going to continue this digitization webinar, because we are inviting all partners to contribute in this at AFAS, is we know that agriculture is contributing in a huge proportion to gas emission. Is digitalization of agriculture and extension going in the right way to reduce? Will it contribute in reducing these environment problems? So this is a very broad question that I'm asking. It's a challenge I'm asking those who want to do more research in future. I don't know if it's already somewhere there, but I didn't see anything about that in this report. And I think it's really relevant to start thinking about that. For those who, I think this report was very, very, as I say, relevant, timely, and we invite more people to join this AFAS initiative of D4AAS. And especially, I would really appreciate, because we have so many decision makers joining this webinar today, if in the next slides, maybe Dr. Hadom can show some of the recommendations and stress some key recommendations. I think Christine already mentioned some, and maybe the other contributors, you mentioned others, but I think it's really important. We need recommendations as we move, because digitization is moving very fast. Things are happening every day, and if we don't have a frame where we move, we don't have guidance, we might have some surprise in future. So thank you, Ben, for this second part. And if you can contribute in some ways in those some of these questions I raised. Thank you.
Thank you, Andre, for those very summarized words. I know you as a practical man, and also looking forward. That's why he's talking about recommendations, so that we see how we can action most of those recommendations. For just information, our dear participants, know the report we are talking about, first, it has two very well done versions. There's a summarized version with about 30 pages. I would encourage you to start with that, because it gives a very concise summary. Then when you are really charged to read, then you can read the bigger one, which is about 238 pages or so. So if you start with a small version, it gives you a lot of appetite to read the other one very in a more systematic way. So with that also, I encourage you to send a lot of questions. Also, if you can respond to others as participants, that is what we call participatory learning. But also the presenters and those who are capturing questions, if some questions can be responded directly, it will save a lot of time from us. Having said that, I welcome Dr. Dom to the third part of the presentation. Welcome.
Okay, thank you, Max. And thank you, Andre. Andre, I will now respond to your questions now. I know there are a lot of experts out there, and I can talk about the super platforms as well, but I will leave it for others to contribute as well. I don't want to be the only speaker. So the reason for the third part is to bring it down to the practitioner level. And I started as agricultural extension officer back in Ghana. I worked on the field for about 4 years, so I know what I'm talking about, where you take research finding from research and try to get the right content and advice and capacity building to the smallholder farmer on the ground. And that's what I did for about 4 years with all the struggles, what to give. The farmers do trust you. They see you as everything. You are the source of knowledge for everything. So if you don't have the right information, you know what you are giving them. So that's what drove me to explore the role of these information technologies and innovations in extension and advisory services. So looking at this, the report, we did a classification of some of the solutions that we have under advisory and information services. The first one I'll talk about here, I'm not going to talk about, these are just examples of those we have, is those that give basic information. You know, they give you alert, they give you direction. They are generic messages which you need to act on. So a number of these are basic information and advisory services. Then the second group are those that are farm management systems and softwares that you can apply to commodities.
Hey, how you doing?
Andrew, you need
So,
Andrew,
I've done my part.
Andre, could you mute?
oh, you guys need to mute your. Okay. So the second part has to do with farm management softwares where, you know, businesses, agribusinesses can apply this onto like dairy farming, poultry, specific crop. So these are things that can help the extension officer, whether you are NGO driven or private sector or government. There are other solutions that we classify as participatory advisory services. You can see examples of them. The call centers, IVR, the peer-to-peer like WhatsApp, the interactive chatbots, you know. So all these tools, again, it's not my intention to go deep into any of these. I don't lean towards any of them. I think CTA will take a neutral approach to promote this, but just telling you how you can use some of these solutions for your extension and advisory service. And I know you are using a number of them already. An interesting group is the precision agriculture advisory services, where, you know, that is the trend, that is where we are going to. And that is what I would like you to know more. Because again, based on the framework, that the concept that I described, from digital solutions to big data to, if you are not precise, if you don't deliver customized services to farmers, your message, your content will become like, you know, a spam to them, you know, so they subscribe and they drop off because it's not going to be relevant. So some of the tools that we are talking about, like the drones, the satellites, the sensors, the Internet of Things, what we are saying is integrating these tools into your services will deliver better solutions to farmers. So you see remote sensing, you see sensors, you know, portable ones that you can use in the soil. You see tools that you can use to diagnose pests and diseases on your crops, and irrigation facilities. You know, all these are supporting what you as an extension practitioner, your role, you know, basically how you deliver your services to the farmers so that the farmers can benefit more. I'm not saying that you are going to buy drone or you are going to, you know, use satellite images, but the solutions providers are there to help you. So basically, those are some examples. You know, the summary of the recommendation, the first one is there's a need for, you know, an alliance to drive this whole idea. Then the issue of human capital is key. I know a lot of questions about it. Sustainability, I saw a question about that. You know, then the other one is to create greater impact by driving D4R to less deserved population. You know, we should not limit it to Nairobi, you know, Arusha, Lagos, Accra. No, let's go to the rural communities where farmers need it most. Invest in the missing middle, and that is the data infrastructure, which we refer to as missing middle data infrastructure. That one too, I can explain more if time permits. Invest in good data stewardship. You know, there's a need for us to protect the data with the use of these technologies, but not to over-regulate it, you know, to also impede innovation. So there's a need for a balance. And then the issue of research. How do we show the evidence, the impact of these solutions? There's so much going on there, but we are not able to prove the impact of this. So my last slide talks about the way forward. So I mentioned that increasingly we will see customized digital advisory services delivery. This will be based on big data and analytics. If you don't have the right data, you cannot deliver the right message. You will send a generic message that will not be useful. It doesn't mean that generic messages are not good. Some of the farmers need those generic messages. But for farmers to pay, you need to customize, you need to target, you need to, deliver those kind of services. And that based on data. You need to build we need to build the right data infrastructure, the farmer registries, the identities, and be able to use the real-time drones and satellite images, sensors to capture data related to these locations and be able to advise our farmers. The business model is key. I don't have an answer for any example that this is the example that works. There are a lot of them out there, good ones working, others are not working, but some of us are seeing, the business model shifting to data. If you build a right data infrastructure, farmers may not pay fully, businesses will pay, like B2B models. Businesses will pay and farmers will receive subsidized services. And the super platform is what I mentioned. And the last one has to do with the agents. Our agents need to be digitally enabled to be able to, and going from individual to networks. We need to bring networks that deliver these services to our farmers. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Adom, for that last very well done summary. It talks it all. The issues of the alliances is actually the beginning of this conversation. This discussion is about what AFAS as a continental organization in extension can do in terms of bringing this alliance to reality. And we hope we can rally with this together with the CTA and all our CADAP-XP partners to make sure that there is a very strong alliance for digitalization of extension in the continent. And the issue about take it to the farmer, as the late Bolong said, let's take it to the farmer, take it to the rural areas where it is needed. Of course, with a lot of context specific. The data is necessary, but it should be context specific. And with this now, allow me, dear participants, to get you very much involved by requesting Dr. Christine Davies and Dr. Samson Eshetu to come on board to take us into the session of question and answer. Then we proceed from that point. So Christine, Samson, please, over to you.
Samson, you want to start?
Okay. Thank you very much, Max. Thank you, Dr. Ben, for your very interesting presentation. And I think the people are already asking some question in the Q&A box. So I would like to forward those questions so that you'll be responding for those. I'll forward some questions. For instance, the first one is from Mark. That is great presentation. Based on your experience, what could be the possible drawbacks that affect the expansion of digital solutions and their low level of usability in Central Africa? What could be the possible ways to change the narrative? Maybe you respond that. Yeah, just take note. No.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you maybe a chance later. Just take notes. Then I'll forward also other questions. Again, one question from the smallholder farmer. Due to COVID-19, digitalization is the most convenient way to go in this new normal. Unfortunately, the smallholder farmers who are conversant or who can use ICT are very few. What strategies have you made not to leave others behind and to walk the talk? So these are the two questions, and maybe last question. Then they said that we need to get, okay, I think these are the two questions. And maybe last question, how can the extension staff can be trained on this methodology? What is the way forward? Maybe these are the three important questions from the Q&A answer session. Maybe Christine, over to you before we give to Ben.
There's just one or two questions in French that I'll request Andre to bring into the English discussion. Andre, are you there?
Okay, maybe when Andre is coming, maybe let's hear from Ben. What would be your responses for those questions? Then Andre will come later.
Thank you, Samson. I hope I'm not the only one going to talk. Eh?
Yes.
Christine is also an expert, so so yeah, people should contribute. Even though I may have things to say about each one of these, but the Central Africa question, to be frank with you, I don't have the answer. Even the Southern Africa, the Sahel region, we found the disparity of the number of solutions in those regions and the registered users, very low. It may also be due to, the flow of funds from the donors. The monies are going to Eastern Africa, Western Africa, and all those things. So it's a number of factors. So, but it's left to us to push it, as development practitioners, to push it to all these regions. Leaving no one behind. The smallholder farmer, as I told you at the beginning, not at the beginning, somewhere in the middle, I didn't work straight as extension officer. I worked as a farmer myself. I farmed with my parents, before going to school to do my graduate programs and all those things. So I know the challenge with the illiteracy in our parts of the world. But the argument is that, despite the fact that you have to carry out capacity building and all those things, the argument is the basic information, like my mom or my grandmom, my father back in the village, we are able to chat on WhatsApp, or audio messages. So those are the basic ones that we need to push. And if I was talking about customized, tailored, targeted messages, those ones, I'm not expecting the smallholder farmer to provide a service, but the service providers deliver IVR, interactive voice response to farmer. The farmer can play and listen to it. So the basic training is out there that farmers should be able to use. And pictures, images, videos, all of them are being used, that we need to take advantage of. So that's my comment on that. And the training of extension staff, definitely, we need to do that. The traditional ones are still there who are the ones that think these tools are too much, it's too technology, so why not just ride my bicycle or motorbike? And an example of what we did in Uganda, where we were trying to use the farmer organizations as extension agents. We had to train them, equip them with the smartphones, provide them means of transport to go and do this registration of farmers. So you need to build the capacity of this, whether the public extension or the farmer organizations, to be able to do it. And they are happening all over.
Very much, Dr. Ben. Maybe any contribution from Andre, or maybe even Dr. Christine or Dr. Ibrahim, especially how can we really engage as smallholder farmers, especially and also how we can build the capacity of extension workers so that they can reach critical mass using the digital solution. Any contribution? Sure. Yes,
Yes, yes,
Christian.
I've seen some comments from Uli about illiterate farmers and Federica about the vulnerable farmers. So yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people think digitalization means really high tech, and it is somewhat high tech, but some of the pastoralists I know in northern Kenya are some of the early adopters of using phones, and of course there's voice-based programs one can use, and you can, sorry. You can use voice-based programs on your phone. There's audiobooks. There's other sort of software and programs that are suitable for people that can't necessarily read. Salbo is online, the Scientific Animation Without Borders people. There's a lot of visual and animations that can be used. I know Kenya is famous for Shamba Shape Up for people that can watch programs as well. Training is definitely something needed, and several of you are raising questions about resource poor extension departments, how can they afford this kind of thing, and so forth. So I think, some of the benefits of digitalization are the ability to scale and to sustain some of the work, but it doesn't replace human resources. So, trade-offs need to be made in terms of which equipment to buy, but also in training extension staff to be able to use new technologies and so forth. And so that's something that does need to be invested in. And I hope some of you have some examples from your countries. Maybe you can type in the chat box about what your country is doing in terms of training extension agents and also using different technologies that aren't too expensive. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Christian. Yes, you really highlighted very important points. When we talk about digitalization, we need to think about in the context, especially using also these days, reaching the rural farmers, especially using radio combined with the mobile functionality. For instance, the experience of Farm Radio International, reaching the rural farmers using radio, but combined with the mobile functionality using the interactive voice response. That's also one way of reaching smallholder farmers. And also the experience of access agriculture and digital green using local-based video. That could be also another way to reach, especially the rural farmers. These are also some examples. Any contribution from Andre or Dr. Ibrahim, especially reaching the smallholder farmers, how we can really build the extension officers' capacity so that they can reach, especially the smallholder farmers. Or Dr.
Maybe a very short one. Maybe a very short one.
Go ahead.
Africa has a continental program, the CADEP, which has been reviewed with the Malabo Declaration. To reach the smallholder farmer, we need means. There's no way we can reach them without significant political will and some concrete wills. So my call here is just for all the government people who are joining these webinars. And very few countries in Africa has committed to what was signed in Malabo and even before. So if some country had the opportunity to increase their investment in agriculture sector, digitalization of extension should be one of the priorities. That is maybe one of my message, just a key message today.
Okay, thank you very much. Any additional contribution from the panelists? Dr. Slim, Dr. Ibrahim. So I'm seeing there are no more questions from the Q&A box. Maybe you can take this opportunity to convey one or two key messages, how we can really enhance the use of digitalization, especially in the context of agricultural extension and advisory services. What would be your advice, especially for the extension workers?
Yeah,
maybe
there are
we
lots
can
of questions.
Maybe we can give the floor also to some of the attendees. There are some hands raised.
Yeah, there are lots of questions also.
Okay, are there any hands? Okay.
So there's Mona Ben, Ojo, G4, Ibrahim, Sani.
Okay,
Which one?
okay. I'm just checking that, but I don't have maybe access. Okay, I'm seeing 5 hands. Okay, sorry. Okay, let me give for the participant. The first question will be, the first chance will be Mona Ben. Please unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question. Mona Ben, Matiwani, you are muted. Or maybe let me give a chance to Ojo Oluwakimi. Kindly unmute yourself and talk. Okay, still I'm not hearing. Good.
Probably you have to unmute them.
I think,
Okay.
Andre, you have to unmute the participant.
Sorry,
Max, do you have that?
I'm
Max?
Andre, it is Andre.
I'm muting.
Andre.
Okay,
I'm
okay.
allowing them to talk, but they
Okay.
don't unmute themselves. So I
Okay.
allow you to talk, but you have to unmute yourself.
Yourself, yeah.
Okay, let me give a chance to Ibrahima. Ibrahima, please unmute and talk. I don't know, maybe the functionality from our side.
Yeah.
Proceed.
From our
So,
side.
Now he
I
is
think
unmuted
Ibrahima
now.
is okay now. He can talk.
Okay, yes, he's talking. Okay, Ibrahima, go ahead, please.
Veuillez parler, Ibrahim.
yeah, training will be needed for this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's try with
Capacity
G4.
Yeah.
So Guy, you have raised your hand?
Yes, can I
Okay.
speak?
Okay.
Can I in French?
Yes, go ahead.
In
Yes.
French?
Go ahead.
Ok, merci. À l'Union européenne, la digitalisation est une des priorités avec le Green Deal, le pacte vert, et on finance plusieurs projets sur ces questions. Et on cherche à financer des projets qui favoriseraient la transition agroécologique et quelque part qui favorisent aussi les échanges entre paysans et techniciens, chercheurs pour produire des connaissances qui soient contextualisées, utiles localement. Et on se trouve confronté au fait que la plupart des solutions qui ont été évoquées, qui ont été montrées dans le rapport, sont des solutions où on transfère des informations aux paysans sur la météo, sur les prix, sur les techniques, plus ou moins actualisées. Donc, on est plus sur une dimension d'agriculture de précision où on dit aux paysans ce qu'il faut faire, comment mieux faire, mais on ne mobilise pas leurs savoirs locaux, leur capacité d'adaptation et on a très peu d'outils là-dessus. Donc, on souhaite financer et on finance des projets qui ont une dimension de recherche pour favoriser les échanges. On a bien sûr des WhatsApp, on a des réseaux sociaux qui fonctionnent très bien là-dessus, mais ça ne permet pas de coupler avec des outils qui permettraient de mieux gérer les informations locales, de les classifier, de les valider et d'avoir quelque chose de plus interactif. La deuxième chose, c'est que à part des informations, on va dire, très basiques, pour que le paysan utilise ces informations, il a besoin de rentrer dans un processus d'apprentissage. Et comme Christine disait, on a besoin d'interactions humaines. Et donc, l'outil de digitalisation ne remplace pas le conseiller et le technicien. C'est le technicien très souvent qui a l'outil et qui va améliorer ses performances professionnelles et qui va travailler avec le paysan. Donc, là aussi, transférer des messages, même actualisés, contextualisés, n'est pas suffisant pour s'assurer qu'il y ait un processus d'apprentissage et que le producteur puisse utiliser l'information. Et là aussi, on a quelques expériences dans ce cas-là, mais on manque de recul. La plupart des solutions étant en général pour le paysan en lui disant ce qu'il faut faire et ne le facilitant pas les processus d'apprentissage. Voilà. Et donc, c'était pour traduire ça en question, qu'est-ce que finalement le rapport, qu'est-ce qu'il dit là-dessus? Est-ce qu'il aborde ces questions-là? Et est-ce que c'est une préoccupation ou alors finalement on souhaite avoir des systèmes de conseil drivés par les grandes entreprises et les grandes firmes qui gèrent les données? Ou, voilà. C'est un peu quand même aussi une question stratégique, hein.
Ok, merci. Merci beaucoup.
That's a long one.
Maybe
J'en profite.
Ibrahim.
Yeah, that's a long one, but interesting. What I can get, my French is not good, so but the translation that was done, I think, captured the summary. You know, farmer. Yes.
Shall we take one or two more, then we respond once?
Samson, we take only one.
Okay,
so based on our time schedule, we take one, then we allow the panel to come on board.
Okay, maybe one more question, maybe Ibrahima, or maybe Sani Madi. Sani Madi, let's be brief. Sani Madi.
Hello, can you hear me, sir?
Maybe Andre, unmute him. Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Sani,
yes,
go ahead.
yes.
My name is Sani Madi Yakubu. I'm an extension student with Edu Zaria. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Okay, so my name is Sani Madi Yakubu. Here in Nigeria, I'm an extension, Sani Madi Yakubu. I'm an extension student with Edu Zaria here in Kaduna State, Nigeria. My question is that regarding the...
I can't hear him.
Yeah, there's a problem.
Okay, I think we don't have much time. Maybe
hello, can you hear me?
The chance to the panelists.
Hello, can you hear me now? Okay.
Can you hear him?
No, there's a problem at the background, so we're not hearing it well. So.
Okay, go ahead now.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me now? I say I'm an extension student. My question goes like that regarding the drone.
Challenge from his side.
The drone, using of drone as a digital. Okay, you cannot hear me.
I've got a question. It's a use of drone. I don't know how much, but I can talk about it.
Yes, for small farmers here in Nigeria, we are having a challenge.
The question. Let's
thank you.
From Dr. Ben.
Yeah, let me quickly respond to some of the questions. The first one has to do with the local knowledge, farmer knowledge, and precision agriculture. I think when I made my presentation, I talked about 4 components, and then the big data and analytics, I talked about quality content and digital identities. Basically, what I'm talking about is capturing data not only from satellites and drones, but also from the ground, and then getting to know the farmer. You need to interact with the farmer. You need to get data from the farmer. You need to get knowledge from the farmer. The problem is not to depend on one source of data, which traditional extensions used to do. What we are saying now is if you're able to combine a number of sources of data, and then you computerize it, you use computer to analyze it, it gives you trends and insights of what is happening. So yes, we need, farmer local knowledge, data from them. We need to utilize them and other sources of data. And then once you do that, then precision agriculture comes in, whereby you'll be able to know what the farmer is talking about. If the farmer has sown maize and is looking for fertilizer, you'll be able to know because you capture all the data from the farmer. The farmer tells you that I'm planting maize, and you can monitor the field and deliver those kind of services to them. There was a question about annual update of the report. Yes, the report, that was the idea. That's why I said it was designed as a baseline so that there will be annual, not necessarily annual. Annual will be too expensive, but regular update. And that's what my director mentioned, that the University of Wageningen here is taking up that challenge to keep the data up to date. eventually scale it beyond Africa to Asia, Latin America, to be able to capture this data. I also saw a question about the use of local languages. Local languages is key for us as extension practitioners and farmers. So what is happening with these solutions, most of them are able to do translation into local languages, so that once you pick your local language from your region, you will get the content in that language. It's expensive, it takes time, but a number of solutions are doing it. And then the last question on the use of drones. Drones, what we are saying is you don't expect the farmer to use drones, at least our type of farmers, you know, you don't expect them to use drones, but there are drone service providers. CTA has supported, you know, a network of, if you search for Africa Goes Digital, Africa Goes Digital, you will see network of drone providers, drone service providers in Africa, the kind of services they are doing to support extension and advisory services across the continent. So from Nigeria to Kenya to all over, they are there. So they are the ones that will use drones to spray your field for you, and you know, and do all kinds of things. So those are some of my reactions to the questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Ben, for your responses. I think for the participant, we'll be continuing this discussion through the D group. And also, again, this is going to be a series of webinars. If we have any more questions and so on, we'll come back again. Always feel free to share your comment and suggestion questions through the D group. We'll be sharing soon. And I think for now, let's stop the question and answer session. And let me give back to Max for wrap up and closure. Thank you very much for your participation. Max, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Samson, and all the people who have asked the questions, and Dr. Dom for responding to some of them. Definitely, we shall engage Dr. Dom to respond to all the questions with another team of experts, but of course with also practitioners. So, dear participants, I know that you would have loved to say some few words or even see that your question is answered. I so feel, again, we want to thank Guy from the European Commission for participation, but also providing those very good insights. So allow me now, dear participants, to welcome one of the panelists from FAO, Nevena Alexandrova, to give key highlights on where what does digitalization mean in terms of going forward. So, Alex, over to you.
Thank you very much. And I would like to raise some points for further consideration from FAO perspective that I hope would further enhance and hopefully enrich the CTA report, and also they hopefully highlight some of the questions clarified through the discussion. So, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, you know very well that the world is facing unprecedented and escalating challenges that affect agricultural sector, people, and food supply chains. Today, we know that we need 60% more food, 50% more energy, and 40% more water resources in 30 years' time. And this is in the scenario, moderate scenario without pandemics. So my point is the COVID-19 pandemic, the resource constraints and climate change clearly call for a rapid transformation of the food system level that goes far beyond production. And both digitalization in agriculture and agricultural extension and advisory services are indispensable to accelerate this food system transformation, as they have the potential to act transversally from production, processing, distribution, consumption, and food to loss and waste, if you wish. So, but every transformative change that definitely includes the process of digitalization, depends on the speed and the transformation capacity of the most vulnerable part of the chain. And these are, that has been mentioned, these are the smallholders, women, youths. So it is now clear that digitalization in particular would not be achieved without the advancement of the most vulnerable, the smallholder farmers, and agricultural advisory services, being the closest institutional partner to smallholders, have a particular role and mandate to play in merging this triple digital divide, as we say, between countries. And we have seen a larger variability between countries in African continent, between countries, between rural and urban, and also gender, under the condition of a growing gender gap in Africa in using ICTs. So this definitely advisory services have a role to play in digitalization. And in addition to D for agricultural advisory services, we in FAO add another aspect, that very linked aspect. This is agricultural advisory services for digital. So extension and advisory services do contribute to digitalization by developing digital capacities, for instance, both in farmers and also agriculture extension agents. Also, they should act even more as mediators between the solution, IT solution providers, to make IT solutions much more relevant to the needs of smallholders. And they should also participate more actively into the discussions about digital agricultural policies, bringing aspects such as digital governance, data ownership, and so on and so forth. It has been already mentioned. So, but in order to do so, agricultural advisory services must transform themselves. And interestingly, digitalization is one of the tools that enhance the reform process of advisory services. For instance, to enhance governance, coordination, relevance, access, and so on. So furthermore, I would like to highlight the role of the capacity development as an element of the enabling environment for digitalization in advisory services. And so I would like to say that according our experience in FAO, without adequate capacities, both innovation capacities and digital capacities, at technical functional level raised in individual, organizational, and policy level, digitalization efforts may not earn results, may actually fail, even in presence of digital technologies or financial support schemes. So in FAO, we are working on digital capacity, innovation capacity framework to complement those efforts. Many participants ask the legitimate question, digitalization in agricultural advisory services, but how? And in FAO, we recommend a few things without without knowing all the answers. So far what we can say is that indeed we need to start small, using low-tech solutions and upscaling gradually in the digitalization of advisory services, and foster co-creation pathway in designing and implementing digital extension program, meaning participatory, multi-actor, farmer-centered innovations versus the adoption pathway. This already has been discussed and highlighted by Guy Ford. And also, I would like to say let's be prepared for a disruptive innovation brought by digitalization in advisory services. And even one more, maybe a wish, why not advisory services learning how to drive the disruptive innovations? So finally, we have to use adequate experiences, technologies that have been developed elsewhere. On an FAO, we have a tech platform for technologies for smallholders that include digital technologies. And also we have Tabipedia, a resource database that can be useful in this process. I would like to finish by welcoming the Digital for Agricultural Advisory Services initiative of the AFAS, and also express my willingness to cooperate in the frame of our very well and long time established cooperation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nevena, for also the assurance. FAO is a very great partner of both CTA, AFAS, and all our partners in the room, and we look forward to working with you in driving digitalization of extension in Africa forward. This is a beginning, this is a launch, and we are very confident that we shall walk through this process and ensure that we build the capacity of the extension workers. We do co-creation to see the pathways which are very interactive, and ensure that just beyond the disruption of the innovation, we also make sure that the innovation is very aligned to the needs of the farmer. So thank you for those highlights and the recommendations that you have brought forward. We shall take them on board seriously. Dear participants, having listened to those very good presentations and conversation from our panelists, and also having heard your voices, I wish therefore to recognize very high-level people in this room. In the discussion, I wish to recognize the presence of EU in the room, our partners from FARA, the SROs, Asareka, Kadesa, Koraf. Those are our partners in terms of the implementation of CADAP XP4. We also wish to very highly recognize the presence of the AFAS board chair in the room, Dr. Germain Patrice, who will raise his hand basically to greet the participants. We may give him 1 second to say hi if time allows. But I want to just recap from my side and say this is the beginning of this journey. We shall be having a series of webinars that we shall always get back to you. We shall also ensure that we discuss these issues on our D groups, including our partner D groups. So the conversation has started and will continue. In terms of the platforms at the national level, our country fora are very strong, and they do play a very important role in terms of bringing the stakeholders together. So for those in Africa, when you want more information, you can go to your respective country fora who are already operating at your country at the national level. So, ladies and gentlemen, with your kind permission, we have 2 minutes to close this session. I want to beg that I allow the chairman of AFAS to greet you in 1 second. Dr. Patrice Germain. Andre, if you can unmute him. While Andre is doing that, I would like to request Dr. Ibrahim if he has one parting word in terms of this conversation this afternoon. Dr. Ibrahim.
I think Ibrahim is gone.
Oh.
Yeah, we have another event that we need to go.
Okay, okay. Dr. Slim, just one word for parting.
Yeah, thank you very much, Max, and everybody else. This has certainly been a very useful and productive meeting with all the participation. And like you say, this is just the beginning, and we'll continue in the same and expand on the scope and even roll it out further, similar discussions in the country fora. So in the next few months, headed by Max, Andre, and Samson, some of these discussions will continue and will continue rolling it out to the country fora in the various countries we are in. So again, thank you very much, CTA, the participants, Christine, the presenters, the panelists, Ibrahim, for very good contributions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, the ED of AFAS, and may I request Dr. Adom to say one parting word?
Oh, yeah, Max, I didn't know that you were going to call me to say anything again. But
one word.
Yeah, but no, it's been a pleasure sharing our experience. And the key thing is to get this down to the smallholder farmers. And I think one of the reasons for this is to get the practitioners, extension practitioners, buy into this and then get involved. So we encourage them to develop the interest. We're not saying that they should use technology, they should use drones, but they should be able to promote the use of this. So for our practitioners, extension practitioners, embrace it, and we will see some change on the ground.
Thank you. Andre, if you got the chairman, he could, this is the time we want to close.
The chairman is already there among the panelists. I also noticed that Amin is with us from IFAD. Maybe some words from him after.
Yeah, that's good. Just a word from Dr. Jemen, then we give Amin to say one word as well.
Okay, thank you, Max. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure for me to attend this conference with you. I think it's a very good initiative. We have listened to the presentations and to the questions and answers. For me, it was very informative. And my take-home message is that there is a lot of material there. There is a lot of knowledge that has been generated. Now we just need to use them, to customize them, and to put them into practice. So for me, the way forward is to disseminate further this knowledge and to work on the capacities and on the enabling environment to really valorize all this material that have been generated. I think as Max or Dr. Slim just said, this is a beginning of a process. So I am very optimistic that we will keep discussing, sharing all this interesting material that were developed by CTA and other partners. So as AFAS, I'm very happy for this initiative, and I really encourage you to keep interacting directly or through emails or other platforms. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Let's give our funders IFAD a minute to say some words of encouragement. Over to you, Amin.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. A very interesting discussion. Thank you, all the panelists and the participants. You know, it's very interesting to know what needs to be done is huge. It's a lot, because I'm talking also as a small farmer. You know, the extension service we see always, or in most of the cases, from the extension services officers to the farmer, but there is a lot of knowledge that goes from farmers to extension services to be, let's say, scaled up. And also there is a very important dimension is let's call it extension, but it's knowledge sharing between farmers. This should be encouraged also. We have to find a way how to encourage or facilitate the information circulation between farmers. Farmers are the source of most of the information, also to gather or to give us the direction for research and for innovation that we should invest on in the future. Thank you very much, and very interesting discussion.
Thank you. Thank you, Amin, and convey our greetings to all the colleagues at IFAD. Thank you, G, for the representation of the Commission, and would like to very essential again to thank CTA for partnering with us, not only today, but throughout the life of CTA. We've been good partners for a number of years, and mostly also to remember and say thank you to our CADAP XP partners, FARA SROs, for walking the talk together. And we hope that the next webinars we shall involve most of you in sharing your experience. With this, therefore, we wish you a good evening, a good afternoon, a good morning, wherever you are connecting from, and let's keep in touch. We shall be sending next webinar links and other webinars that AFAS will be organizing. We very, very much appreciate your participation. We had over 225 participants, and you can see that the house is still full. This is an encouragement to us as extension champions in Africa. We thank you, and we thank the African Union for being our mother policy organ in championing the issues of CADAP. Thank you, and bye.
So as we are leaving, we can fill this last poll, please. Thirty more seconds. Thank you. Do we need to stay more time, or I think we are done?
No, give them a chance. Therefore, the coffee break online, I mean, interaction, people exchanging notes. So we give them another 5 minutes. We still have 80 participants, actually 81 online. Very, very, very good.
So apparently more than 85% of participants find this thing more than just normal relevant thing webinar, and maybe 88% will come for the next one.
Yeah,
that's what you can see in the results. Ibrahima, you are still raising your hand.
maybe it is. It
Yes,
was a mistake. I mean, he just clicked without intending to do that.
Yes,
But it's
Ibrahima.